Hello and welcome to week 2. This is your instructor, Dr. Carola Fortner, and I want to give you a quick overview over this week. So let's take a look at what's going on in this week. So first of all, you will find an announcement, and here will be our little video as well. And I just put in there a little definition box of some of the terms that you come across in your readings in week 2. Because in what you're really learning is about some of the basic concepts, and you will need definitely to know all these as you are eventually writing your method section and you're putting together your paper for the end of this class. So some of the basic concepts we're talking about are variables. Variables are obviously anything that varies, that changes across people, groups, or situations. So for example, height is something that's different in the classroom, especially if you're looking at women versus men, right? Operational definitions are the way that these variables need to be defined so we know exactly what we're talking about. So they need to be clear, real concrete, they need to be measurable and observable. We need to be somehow able to measure it, right? Our population is basically the large group that we want to learn about. So I might want to learn about all inmates in federal prisons, right? Well, I can conduct a study that deals with all these many people, so I might take a sample. So the sample is a smaller group that I pick from the study from the big population. And the way I do that to make sure that I have a representative sample, meaning a sample that's similar to the large population, is I pick the people that I can actually study, so a much smaller group, from the population without bias. So I might take all the people from all the federal prisons, and I will randomly pick the inmates that are, maybe they're numbered, and we're picking randomly from these numbers. So that way we have a representative sample, which is that it is similar to the population, and that means anybody from this large population could be in my study, and the population should be similar. Now, if I have trustworthy results, I did a good study that was valid and reliable and everything, and my sample was similar enough to the population, then I can apply the findings from my small sample to the large population. Only then can I really say, because of these study samples, and because of my sample being representative, and because I didn't make any mistakes in my study, I can now make conclusions about all the inmates in federal prisons. So that's generalization. Okay, so the relationships between these variables are obviously interesting to us, and we want to say, does this cause that? What is the bottom of this? How do things relate? And so we want to see really the relationships between things. So we might say there's a relationship between alcohol use and driving accidents, right? Now, we could say that so many people who have been drinking have so many accidents, and that would be a statistical relationship. The change in one variable, meaning drinking alcohol, results in the change of other accidents, right? Now, the correlation shows the strength of a relationship between two variables that don't necessarily cause each other. So, for example, depression and self-esteem might be related. Where depression goes up, self-esteem goes down. So that would be a negative relationship, right? A negative correlation. When one goes up, the other one goes down. And when stress goes up, health goes down. That would be another negative relationship, right? Or if we have more drinking alcohol, foolish behavior goes up. That's a positive relationship, so that things go up as they go up. So these correlations show there's a relationship, but they don't necessarily are, showing a causation. For example, low self-esteem could be the cause of more depression, or depression could be the cause of self-esteem. We don't know which direction this relationship is, but we know there is some kind of relationship. All right. Then we might want to know about the difference between groups. So the average mental health incidence of mental health diagnoses in our prison population, how does it compare to the average in the general population? So then we want to look at those averages in those two groups, and we need to know whether this is a statistically significant relationship or if it's just, how do we compare that? And there's like the t-test and all kinds of statistical ways to take a look at that. So what's an experiment? So we're talking about these experiments. And an experiment is a study in which the researcher manipulates the independent variable. So the independent variable is what we want to learn about. For example, the drinking. Does that, if I drink more or I drink less, will that have an influence on the way I drive? So the variable that's changed or manipulated is actually the one that is the independent variable. For example, treatments. What about cognitive behavioral treatment versus psychodynamic treatment? So if I have these two treatments and I have a bunch of people in these treatments, are the outcomes different for the one treatment versus the other? So what I'm measuring are these treatment outcomes for maybe depression. So if I have a group of people in cognitive behavioral treatment and a group of people in psychodynamic treatment, what, in terms of depression, what kind of level of depression do I measure in these groups? So the independent variable would be the treatment. The dependent variable would be about the amount of depression. So that should give you a little bit of an overview. We're going to get more as we go on into different kind of different sort of research, qualitative and quantitative, etc. But for now, this should give you a good overview of the basics here. So what is one of the big tasks in this week is to write a literature review. And what I did here in the announcements, I actually, let's see here, here's a sample annotated bibliography for you. So if you're taking a look at this, here is just like an overview, and you can click that to get a bigger picture of it. Here is an example of how you would format your annotated bibliography. So you give yourself, the front page, the title page, then you write annotated bibliography, then you write a little bit of an introduction, and then you list ones by ones the sources that you're dealing with. So you're giving it an APA style citation, just like you would put that into a reference page, except here it's not with a hanging indent. And then you write about it, and there are some suggestions that we have also in the resources in the assignment that can help you with that. Now, in order to get there later, in terms of writing the literature review now, this was the annotated bibliography. The problem is that when you have your literature review, your annotated bibliography, you're going article by article by article. So how do you get from this to something that's a literature review where you're not going article by article, but you're saying, what have I learned from my literature about my topic? And so there you don't want to go article by article, but you want to talk about the different areas of your topic. So for example, how about self-esteem? So you might find in some of your articles something about parental relationships. You might find something about school experience. So you want to talk topical or thematic and not article by article by article. So in order to help you with that, we actually have a little assignment here where you actually develop a mind map of your articles. So in this mind map, and you can click this to make it larger, I believe. Well, maybe not. But so in each article, it describes in the assignment how to do this. In each article, you use the mind map tool to write and analyze these, where you write the population, the concepts, the theories, the findings, the methods. So those are some things that you want to write for each study. And then as you're looking at your big picture here, you can say, oh, what are my findings in regards to, oh, here I find some findings about parenting styles, and here about parenting styles. And here I find something about school experiences, and here school experiences. So you can go across studies and then bring this together thematically. And you could say like, well, most of my studies are using these kinds of methods, but there's a couple that use those. So you can see that this mind map is really going to help you to write a literature review that's thematically instead of just article by article. So I hope this helps you. Let's take a quick look at what else we have to do here in this week. So we're taking a look at week 2. We have our discussion, which is actually a study exploration. Then we have our mind mapping, and then we have to write our thematic literature review. So let's take a look at the discussion. So in terms of discussion, what we're going to do is explore some studies to give ourselves ideas of how studies are conducted, and just to kind of take another look at some of the fabulous studies, some of the classics out of psychology. So what you do is you take one of these studies, and what I'd like for you to do for your initial post, identify the study that you have chosen, give a brief summary of the study, and then answer these questions in full sentences. What was the question that guided their research? So what's their research question? What are the variables the researchers were examining? Who participated in the research? So that would be the sample, right? What were some of the methods they used? And when you look at ethics, what was the ethical issue in the study, or if any you had? So make sure you be sure to cite everything in APA. And as always, feel free to email me or write here in your inbox, in the little notice box. Any concerns that you have, keep in mind that you have tutor.com and homework help available. If you have any questions about APA, if you have some concerns, email me, ask me. That's my job. I'm happy to interact with you. Okay, have a good week.